We did want to find out a little bit more about two of the main driving factors behind the success of hurling in Limerick City. So we went into Pearshig to speak to Barry O'Regan, who's the former bar manager at the club. But we'll also hear from Liam Cronin here first, who is selector with the Dublin Hurlers, but a teacher and coach at Ardscoil Rís as well. A school that will see 15 of its past pupils in the Limerick squad this weekend.
OTB AM. This is OTB Sports Radio.
15 is probably a bit of a ridiculous number, but like we're blessed with the talent that we've had in the school for the last probably maybe 12, 15 years. And look, I suppose while we strive to be as successful as we can, it's another barometer of success to see how many of them have got on and played with their counties. So it's great times at the moment.
What's your role been over the last couple of years in terms of coaching those lads?
Yeah, so I suppose first of all my role is as a teacher, but from a coaching perspective, look, I suppose we're lucky in the school that we've probably maybe 10 or 12 really dedicated staff members that take teams twice a week and bring them on to the standard that hopefully will be successful at schools level, but also at inter-county level.
You were telling me there about the system that you have in terms of who gets to coach which team, which is actually pretty smart.
Yeah, so we kind of take on a team in first year. Myself and Derek kind of have worked together now for probably the bones of 20 years, but you take a team in first year and you kind of take them through for 6 years. Then I suppose, as I was saying to you, the amount of work that's involved at Harty Cup level, it's very difficult to sustain it. So we've probably felt that the best way it works is that you kind of do 2 years at Harty and then you go back and you take the next crop of first years coming through and you end up coaching Harty teams again 4 years later.
Because that is a thing, and I didn't really have it down as an issue in other schools, but quite often the same fella or woman coaches the team every single year, and on the teacher it's obviously incredible and incredibly tough work.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I suppose, look, we have an embarrassment of riches in the school from a coaching and from a playing perspective. I know that some other schools, some colleagues that I'm aware of, as you said, they could be involved with 3 or 4 different teams, and trying to kind of spread yourself over that is just not possible, so we're lucky enough that as a school we have a lot of dedicated staff members that will give of their free time and take a team and work with them to the best of their ability.
Very, very proud. Very proud to the fact that being involved with the senior hurling team myself, and to see the 7 lads that are on the Limerick team now is just pretty phenomenal, yeah.
You would have seen a lot of these fellas as bar manager here in the Pearshig from knee high, literally, from the first day they came in and picked up a hurley to where they are today.
I probably served every single one of them their first drink, and I think I'm not proud of, but I kind of secretly I'm very proud of to see these guys from what they were. From 14 upwards when this really started to perform, it's pretty special, yeah.
Was there a certain generation then that you're seeing that it's obviously the current generation that are playing with the Limerick team? It was obviously when they got to under 14 level or Féile standard that you were like, oh, hold on a minute, we've got something special on our hands.
Peter Casey in particular on that Féile team, going back 10 years ago when I travelled the length and breadth of Galway. They were beaten in the final that day, but look, he was pretty special. There was a couple of other guys on that team as well that's involved in the club. Thomas Grimes there, young Boyle in there as well was involved in that team. Garrod's in it. They're all involved in the senior hurling team here. And look, everybody's proud of the lads and they're proud of the achievements they've done in the last 10 years,
What do you think is the main reason why this club in particular has had such success over the past couple of decades?
The coaching has a lot to do with it. People putting their time in. Time is everything. And people, the likes of Liam O'Brien, Bernie Buckley, these are guys that took these guys at a young age. Timmy O'Connor was another guy there, and give time, effort, patience, and commitment to the guys. And this is the fruits of it now, I believe, yeah.
There are Clare jerseys, there are rugby jerseys up there behind you. What an absolute disgrace to the Limerick hurling fraternity.
Yeah, it's a very unique mix in the school. Not only do you have the Limerick and Clare issue, but I suppose, look, you have hurling and rugby being played to a very high level here. So yeah, it's a very eclectic mix of jerseys behind me on the wall.
So it's British and Irish Lions captains, plural at this point, I guess, and Limerick hurling captains that have represented the school. So what has that breakdown been like historically, and how has that changed after Limerick's hurling success?
Yeah, look, I suppose I'm in the school over 20 years now, and I suppose initially when I started it probably would have been more known as a rugby school than a hurling school, but probably maybe 15 years ago now, the teachers that were involved with GA themselves decided that they were going to see could they take the hurling in the school to the next level. We probably felt that Sexton Street would have been traditionally the nursery for Limerick hurlers, and they probably hadn't been successful in probably 10 or 12 years before that. So we kind of felt that there was an opportunity there for us to kind of maybe brand ourselves as that academy for hurlers or nursery for hurlers within the city. So we rode in behind everyone, and like 15 years later, we have probably 5 Harty Cups and like 15 lads that are going to be going to Crow Park on Sunday. So it's been fantastic.
Did that upset the apple cart a little bit with the people who saw us as a rugby school?
Probably not really. Like with the exception of maybe a handful of guys that would play dual. They're probably very different sports. It would have been different maybe if it was maybe hurling and Gaelic football. Even though we did play Gaelic football in the time, the Limerick's coach on Sunday, Paul Connerk, has won many football medals for the school as well. But generally speaking, they tend to be two different groups, really. While students can play both up until junior cert, generally speaking, by the time they get to senior cup or Harty Cup, they've probably nailed their colours to the mast, so to speak, at that stage.
You see them there. They're young men now, they're fine young men, and they're out in the big bad world now, trying to earn a living there now. But I saw them when they were 12 and 13 years of age. Butter wouldn't melt in their mouth, kind of thing, and they were kind of getting sneaky points at 18 and 19 years of age, and they deserved them, after a match there to be winking and nodding at me there. But look, I was as proud as them, and as they were as proud as me, giving them the pint, kind of thing, So it was nice to see this, and even to this day, they're still supporting the club as well,
Was there a player or a handful of players at underage level that stood out from the rest, or were they all kind of a similar standard, and it was like the team thing?
A lot of them would be a kind of a standard kind of thing, but you always have to kind of the one that Dowling was always a kind of handy player. Peter Casey was a kind of any fella that gets the goals kind of gets the applauds, and the likes of the Carl King there now, he was in the county panel there. He's a backman. You'd never see a backman getting an applaud, but look, everybody knows, and they're all friends inside there. There's nobody kind of better than anybody else, and they're all together. And the great thing about it, you'd see them in bunches of 10 and 12. No matter who scores the goals, they'll all sit down together,
It's interesting as well that you mentioned that you're a teacher first and foremost, and what tends to underpin a lot of these schools is that it is academics first and foremost. So who are the brightest lads academically, because it doesn't always go hand in hand, who are the brightest academically in that Limerick squad?
Oh, at the moment, I suppose very recently, I'd say Cathal O'Neill is only just after doing his leaving cert. I think he'll do a very good leaving cert, and so will Colin Coughlin, two very, very bright kids. But even I remember back in our first Harty Cup success in 2010 and 11, the likes of Adrian Breen and those guys, I suppose what schools hurling does for them is it kind of allows them, or it teaches them how to manage their time, and while they were very busy on the hurling pitches, they were equally as busy from a study perspective too.
You've got obviously the inside track and someone like Cathal who's been spoken about quite a lot. I think he's there's always a couple of hurlers who get spoken about quite a lot without anybody having seen them all that much outside of Limerick, obviously. So how good is this guy, and how terrifying is that Limerick depth over the next little while?
Yeah, the last Harty Cup team that I was involved with, we won the Harty in 2018, and Cathal was a third-year student at that time and scored 1-3 in the final. So, we knew from a long way off that this kid was going to be really special. And I suppose, look, it was a pity in the year that was in it with COVID that he didn't get to play a Harty Cup in his final year. But look, I've no doubt that Cathal is going to have a long career wearing the green jersey of Limerick. And look, it's extremely exciting from our perspective here in the school to see himself and Colin being added to the list of the likes of Declan and Shane and Keane and so on and so forth.
Is there more coming through the conveyor belt? Is it still well oiled at the moment?
Yeah, very much so. Look, and that's the thing. It's fantastic to have 15 lads going up there on Sunday. But we've equally had a very strong contingent on the under-17 Limerick panel this year, and the under-20 panel that were beaten by Cork in the Munster final. With 7 or 8 guys involved in that as well. So I suppose that's the key from our perspective in terms of the long-term success, is that it's not just one team, and then you kind of go missing almost for a couple of years. That we're trying to build a kind of a conveyor belt of talent that will serve the school well, but also that will serve the county well in years to come.
Is there actually conversation between the county board and the school?
Yeah, look, I suppose when 15 years ago, when we said that we wanted to really concentrate on becoming a strong hurling school, without doubt, we got huge backing from within the school, first of all, from Breed Brown, the principal at the time, but likes of Michael Reardon, the county secretary, and Noel Hartigan in the games development side of things, Jerry Binnis, Eamon Field and Owen Ryan. There's huge, I suppose, links between the school and the county board.
There's a cool camp going on here at the moment, 183 kids or something like that. Is phenomenal. 10 years ago when we were running these cool camps, or even the camps, the club that were running the camps themselves, you were getting 90 to 100. You're running 180. That's phenomenal to see that kind of numbers, and all wanted to pick up a hurley, and all kind of with Dowling or Casey, and you can hear them out there when they're hitting the ball. And Dowling, Casey, and you know, and that's what it's about. That's what it's about, and having the young fella having a smile on his face and giving him a little pat in the back. And but the good thing about it is, when you're just touching on that, to see the likes of Peter Casey, to see the likes of Conor Boylan, to see the likes of Jerome Boylan coming down and coaching the kids here. Every single one of them, William O'Donoghue, to Shane Dowling, to Peter Casey, Mike Casey, David Dempsey, Adrian Breen. Every single one of them are part of an underage team here in the club.
Right, I didn't realise that, so they're all getting back.
Every single one of them, even from the Carl King, Alan Dempsey, David Dempsey, every single one of them are involved in an underage team at some level, from under 6 up to under 15.
So I was going to ask, when you've got that huge upturn in the kids coming, is it down to the inspiration of the team, of the county team and the club team? Or it literally is an inspiration. Absolutely. They're literally coaching them.
Absolutely, 100%. And it is an awe there when you see William O'Donoghue there. We're young guys. William is a fine big man. Yeah. And when you see young guys looking up at him there, in awe of him, and when you're being coached by that on a Saturday morning, sure, you've got to come back, you know.